Hi everyone, welcome to Things Lucy Reads. I'm Luce and this is episode 3 of TBR, which is where I pick 3 books out of my TBR jar, which is a commemorative Big Mac glass. So the Big Mac is choosing my TBR. I've got 3 colorways of strips in here. I will pick 3 of them to make a full like rainbow because it is a rainbow sheet of paper. So 1 red and orange one, 1 blue and yellow one, and 1 blue and purple one. Sorry, yellow and green and then blue and purple. If I really don't want to read one of the books that I pull out, I can veto it and then pick out another one of another color. If I've already read the book in between putting it in the jar and now, then I don't have to reread it unless I want to. There are some books in here that are specifically rereads, but some I just put in there and then have since gone on to read. So we'll cross that bridge if we come to it. Oh, the last thing about this challenge is that all of the books in here are queer. It's not all of my queer books, but it is most of them. So every book that I pick out for this vlog will be a queer book. Just in case you haven't watched the other ones and you don't know how this works, it's gay as hell in this jar. So now you know. First up, we will have a red and orange one. I think I will choose this one. Oh, okay. Fittingly, the first book that I pulled out of the jar is One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. In the first round of this series, I read Red, White and Royal Blue as like kind of a wild card pick, and I absolutely adored it, so I'm really excited to get to this one. Everyone has been reading it, so you probably know what it's about, but if you don't, there's this girl called August who moves to New York City and she meets this other woman on the train called Jane, and she figures out that not only can Jane not leave the subway, she is stuck in time from 1970. It's sort of like Kate and Leopold vibes, but it isn't a retelling of Kate and Leopold. It's just vibes, you know? Next, we will have a green and yellow one. Yep. Oh. This one is... oh, great. So the book I just pulled out is Seaside Stranger, and this is volume 1, Umibe no Étranger, and this is by Kei Kanna. This is a gay manga. I didn't read the back before I bought it, so I don't know what it's about. It says, ever since his parents disowned him for being gay, Shun has been living with his aunt on a small island near Okinawa. One day he meets Mio, a high school student who recently lost his own parents and now spends his days sitting by the sea. The 2 young men begin to open up to each other until Mio reveals that he's leaving. 3 years later, an adult Mio returns to the island to confess his true feelings, but is Shun ready for a relationship? That just sounds incredible. We're coming into spring in Australia, so it is warming up. Unfortunately, I'm nowhere near the seaside, but regardless, I'm very excited to read this, and it sounds like it's going to be incredible, and hopefully I love it. All right, so now we're up to the last one. Stressful. What one am I going to pick? Oh, yes, I like this one. The vibes of this one are good, I think. Oh, where to go? Here. Oh no, okay, all right, no. So this is Furyborn by Claire Legrand. I do not want to commit to a book that big at the moment, so actually, no. We're gonna try again. Maybe this one. This one is... oh. All right, I'll go for it. Okay, so the book that I just picked out is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, which is absolutely massively hyped. Everywhere that books are hyped. I'm very excited to read this one. It's like space travel, it's like found family, it's got queer characters, there's aliens. I hear nothing but amazing things. Hopefully I will love it, and I will just eat my words because I said I didn't want to commit to a book that was big, and this one is... how many pages? 402. In my defense, I'm pretty sure that's less than Furyborn. Yeah, so we'll see how I go. I feel like the time is right for me to jump into this. I do have the next 2 books in the series. I feel like I should have read it by now, and that I think I'm really gonna love it, so yeah, I feel good about this. Those are the books that I have chosen for this round of Big Mac Picks My TBR, or TBR, or TBR, whatever we're calling it now. How did I Tuberjar. Like TBR jar, but like French. Tuberjar. This is a terrible name. I'm not as clever as I think I am. Anyway, I just don't want to call it Big Mac Picks My TBR because I feel like at some point McDonald's is actually going to sue me. So I have to call it something else. Anyway, these are the books I picked for the third round. Feeling really good. The vibes are right. And hopefully I really love all of these. But I'll see you later and I'll tell you more about them. Hello. I have read the first volume of Seaside Stranger. I ended up only giving this one a 3 out of 5 stars. It's just a little bit iffy at the moment, which is not unusual for a romance manga. I felt the same about the first volume of Bloom Into You the first time I read it, and then I ended up loving that series as a whole. So I am going to continue with this series, but this volume specifically didn't really wow me. So there's this one character called Shun who has been disowned by his parents for being gay, and we find out that the disownment happened when he came out at the ceremony of his arranged wedding, which was not great timing. And then he meets this other boy on the island, Mio, who has recently lost his mother, and his father was never really in the picture. And then just as they start to kind of get to know each other, Mio is sent to a group home on the main island of Okinawa, I think. So he has to leave, and then it's only like 3 years later when he comes back. My main problems with this were that we don't really know the age difference between Mio and Shun. I assumed that they were the same age, but Shun is old enough to have nearly been married, and Mio is like, I think he's 16 or 17 at the beginning, and then comes back and he's like an adult. I don't know whether that's 18 in Japan or if it's more like 20, but I feel like Shun is at least like 21 or 22 when the book begins, which is a little bit weird. Hi, it's Editing Loose. I just wanted to clarify this thought a little bit. No relationship of any kind happens between Mio and Shun at the beginning of the book, when presumably Mio is still a minor. The relationship only happens after Mio returns to the island, at which point he is a proper adult. It was just knowing the fact that it was going to develop into a relationship and just made me feel a little bit skeevy about it. But nothing actually happens. All they do is sit down and talk. Maybe there's some attraction there. Neither of them act on it. There is no relationship of any kind except for an acquaintanceship until they are both adults. And I just wanted to clear that up. The other thing is they're not very good at communicating with each other or with you, the reader, about their feelings and intentions. So you're never quite sure where they stand with each other because they don't talk about it, but they don't even like internally narrate it either. So I'm just a little bit, it's not bad, nothing in here is a deal breaker for me, but I just wasn't blown away by it and it wasn't quite what I expected. But there's at least 2 more volumes, so I will pick those up and see how they go and then judge the series as a whole when it's finished. I don't know if you can tell, but I am very aware that my eyeliner is wonky. Like, I know it, you know it, we're just gonna move on. I couldn't be bothered taking it off and redoing it, so we're just going with it. I'm practicing anyway because I need to get better at this. Okay, and the other thing that I want to do in this clip is I had pulled out of the jar and One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. However, since filming the first part of this video, my family and I have decided to go to Sydney for a week in January. And since this book is heavily set on trains and we take the train to and from Sydney, I want to read it on the train, but I also want to have this video done and dusted and uploading during the week while I'm in Sydney. So I can't still be reading this in Sydney if this video is going up while I'm in Sydney. So what I'm going to do is pick out another book with the same color strip as this one and have that as my TBR for this video, and then I will just add this one to the burger TBR for the next episode, and we'll just do it that way. So this was an orange and yellow strip, so I will be picking out a new one. Okay. Maybe this one, and hopefully it's short because like it's midway through December already, so oh, perfect. Okay. So, I have just pulled out Hither Page by Cat Sebastian, which is a murder mystery in post-war England, set in the winter. I'm very down for this. So I will be reading this one instead. One of these days I'm going to film one of these and I'm going to read exactly what was in the jar, and I'm not going to change my mind, and I'm not going to like add books in, but it is not this time. No, yes, I will be reading this one, and I will check back in with you when I've read something. So yeah. It's the 6th of January. We did not go to Sydney. I thought it would be fun to do another skincare with Luce kind of thing. The numbers at the moment are outrageous. I think we had something like 36,000 cases today, and it's been like that for days now. So we decided that it was safer to just maybe put the trip off for a little bit, because like those are statewide numbers, but the majority of those cases are in Sydney, which is the capital and also the largest city in the country. So, capital of the state, I mean, it's not the capital of the country, although sometimes it thinks it is. Anyway, we decided it would be safer to not go at this time, so we are not going. And I thought this would be easier to do with damp hair than a cream mask, but maybe I was wrong. Anyway. Cream masks take so much work, you feel? Like, even this is a bit too much work that I can really be bothered with at the moment, but it's less work than a cream mask, and my skin desperately needs something, so here we are. The thing that gets me about these masks, is how wet they are. Like, obviously I know that's the point, but I also hate it, you know? Anyway, I'll put up with it. Okay, so I've taken Hither Page off of the TBR for this video, and I'm not going to put it back on even though we're not going to Sydney, because we haven't cancelled the trip, it's just postponed, and we will now be going in March. So I will read it then when I am on the train. So over Christmas I read Hither Page by Cat Sebastian. I mostly read this as an ebook on Kobo. I signed up to Kobo and they sent me an email like, if you buy a book from us we'll give you 70% off. And I was like, great, because I wanted to read this, but my brain was doing the thing where it wouldn't let me hold a book and be still and pay attention. So I read this mostly on ebook. I'm gonna put it down so I don't get face mask juice on it. It's the story of he's a spy called Leo Page, and he goes to this village to solve a murder which has some, you know, connections to some corruption and things, and he just kind of has to very quickly figure out like the mystery and report back to his superior so they can hush it up. But living in this village happens to be a former army doctor who Leo had a very brief encounter with at a hospital during the war, and that kind of complicates things because they discover that they're both gay, and then there's a little bit of an attraction there. And it was just your run-of-the-mill English village cozy mystery, but gay, which I quite enjoyed. It is the first in the series. The second one is coming out in 12 days, I think, so I've pre-ordered that already. And it was good. This mask is sliding down my face. This is kind of ridiculous. Maybe I'll only leave it on for 5 minutes. It was good. I enjoyed the process of reading it, and it was sort of complex in that there were a lot of threads to unravel with it, and so much was happening over Christmas. Like, and you know, I was stressed about this trip because the numbers were just going higher and higher. In addition to the fact that it was pretty much as complex as Murder on the Orient Express with all of the threads happening. I'm gonna take this off because it is literally dropping down my face. Anyway, bleh. No, I need a tissue. What I want out of life is for a brand to make a sheet mask that's 75% drier than your average sheet mask. Like, they really do not need to be that wet, surely. Also, if you're wondering about this, it's a mask blister. That's where I'm at in my life at the moment. Anyway, so the storyline was kind of really intricate and kind of complex, and I was so stressed about so many things in the weeks that I was reading it that I just did not have the extra brain space to actually figure it out. So I feel like I missed a lot of it and my enjoyment was impacted because of that. But also it is the first in the series, and one of the things that I wanted was a little bit more of a connection and an exploration of the relationship between Leo and James, that's the Doctor, and that's only going to come in later books in the series. I've never met a Cat Sebastian book that I didn't like, so it's not bad. I think it was just my own cognitive shortcomings that let me down at the time, unfortunately. There were discussions of like period typical homophobia, but none of it actually was like experienced by the characters on the page. It was more of just kind of like a, not even a looming threat in the shadows, just more of something that you knew was just behind the next tree. They weren't the only gays in the book, so that was fun. But yeah, it was a 4 out of 5. It was a little bit too complex for my brain at the time, which doesn't mean that it's extremely complex or hard to understand. It's just that my brain has holes in it. So yeah, but it was good. It was very enjoyable. I will read it again. I will read the rest of the series. And then I also finally started reading A Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I was having the same problem with this to begin with. Like, I couldn't concentrate very well. I ended up just kind of putting on some kind of spaceship travel ambience video and like making myself sit down on the bed and be still and just read. And I made it to the halfway point of the book. Excuse me getting all of the... I'm out like a cat, I've got hair all over my dress. It's about this woman called Rosemary, and she's running from her past, and she takes a job as like a secretary on this spaceship, and the job of this spaceship is to punch wormholes in space so that people can travel from place to place and it doesn't take a really long amount of years to get to the other place. The blurb says that everyone on the spaceship also has a secret, and it's not just Rosemary, and at the halfway point I'm getting to the point where everyone else's secrets are starting to come out, and it's honestly just really nice. Like, it sounds like it's going to be a high stakes, like, oh my god, there's going to be so much drama on the ship, but it's not that at all. Like, I feel like even when people find out everyone else's secret, like, no one's actually really going to care. Like, there are stakes involved in these secrets, and, you know, potentially life-ruining ones, but the atmosphere of the ship and the friendships between the crew mean that it is a supportive, safe space for those secrets to come out. So, you know, it's, for all that it's kind of tense, it's actually really lovely and comforting to read. There's a lot of different kinds of alien species, and I really love all of them. They're sort of unlike your regular aliens. And I just think it's funny, like, the differences in not only culture, but like language and like the food that they eat, and like forms of address are different as well. And it's just all so fascinating. And it's a 400-page book, and not a lot has happened in the first 200 pages, really. It's just been a lot of like setup for the big job that they're about to do. But it doesn't feel like a slog at all. It just feels like a very nice, leisurely drive. The TLDR of this is that it's really good. It's a long book and there's a lot in it, but it's just really lovely, and I really, really enjoy it. And I can't wait to see where this book is going to go. And I have read a little bit of the blurb for the next book, and I know that it follows one of the characters that shows up in here, so that's very exciting too. It has spoiled something that is going to happen at the end of the first book, but I was frankly expecting it anyway. But just be aware of that. If you want to read this series, do not read the blurb of the second book. It will spoil something in the first book for you, so just be prepared for that. When I got the second book, I made this post on Instagram and I was like, oh, I haven't read Small Angry Planet yet, but I'm definitely going to do it soon. And that was 5 years ago. It's been well worth the wait, so hopefully I can read a good chunk of it tonight. At some point I have to play Animal Crossing, and I have to time travel back to the 3rd because that was Diana's birthday and I've missed it. And I have to give her a chair. because she does not have a chair in her house, and every time I walk in and she's sitting down, she's just sitting on the floor, and I'm like, Diana, I can't let you live like this. So anyway, it's gonna finish it off, and then I will check back in with you and end this vlog when I have done that. So see you then. So I'm still chipping away at Small Angry Planet. I'm very, very close to the end now. There's a character in here that you hate for the whole book, and I've just reached the part where you find out his secret and he goes through his share of the trauma, and now I love him. So that's where I'm at right now. Like, if you've read this book, then you know exactly what I'm talking about, and I'm like, he's a dick. But he didn't deserve any of that. Becky Chambers, how dare you? I finished it. I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 stars. Just to leave some room for the other books in this series to be even more incredible. And I'm having to physically restrain myself from picking up the sequel. Like right now, because oh, it was so good. It was so good. So the blurb on the back mentions this big, dangerous, you know, politically relevant job that they have to do, but they don't actually, like, you get the lead up of that job and you get to visit, you know, certain planets with them and learn a bit more about their families and their culture and their, you know, situations and relationships and stuff. And then there's a time jump to when the job is finished, and then that's when the, you know, the big conflict action scene happens. So if you're going in expecting to like have a play-by-play of the actual job that they're doing, you're not going to get it. But what you are going to get is an intensely character-driven novel about friendship. And it's fucking incredible, actually. And I just really liked it. And I'm really glad that I read it, because it was just so good. And I'm also glad that this is my first book of the year, because now we're off to a very, very good start. So yeah, I was sort of right, but also not quite right about what I thought the relationship would be. There's an FF relationship in there, and I thought that it would sort of play more of a part than it actually did play. I'm not mad about it though. It's a very like queer normative world, which I always love. I think Becky Chambers is also queer. But I really loved it, and I loved everyone's relationships with each other and how those relationships developed. The character that I hated and then didn't hate did something incredibly shady in regards to one of the other characters on the ship, just because he thought that it was the right thing to do. It didn't take into account what the other character actually wanted. But that turned out okay. And the character in question wasn't mad about it, so I'm not going to be mad about it. Yeah. What was the first book that I read for this challenge? Seaside Stranger. That's right. I forgot. I've been trying to remember. This has been, on balance, the most successful one of these vlogs so far. Each book has been pretty good. Also, I have tentatively renamed the vlog. It is now called The Queer in Glass, as a sort of pun on the song The Parting Glass, which is about all your friends dying, but we're gonna go with it anyway. Oh god. I put a poll on Twitter asking if it was a silly name or a good name, and 4 people said it was a good name and 2 people said it was a silly name. And then I put up another poll and I was like, is it more silly than calling it Tuburger? And most people said no. So we're just gonna go with this one. Maybe I'll change my mind again. Eventually we will settle on a title for this series that will stick. So thanks for coming all along with me on this journey again for the 3rd time. I will do a fourth one, but I have several things that I need to finish off from last year, so it might be a couple of weeks before I pull the other books out of the jar. I've got this one piece of hair that just keeps, there we go, keeps floating in front of my, it's stuck to my hand and came back. We'll just see how I go with my reading. But there will be another episode because, you know, I quite enjoy doing these, and I quite enjoy, you know, the mystery of pulling something out of a TBR glass. So yeah, that's all I have for you for this vlog. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you just want to let me know that you were here, leave me... Is there a rocket emoji? I don't know. Leave me the alien face emoji if you don't have anything else to say, but you just want to let me know that you've watched to the end. If you've read any of these books, feel free to let me know what you thought of them. And yeah, thank you again, and I will see you in my next video. Bye for now.